Your piano teacher Tim here, and today I'm going to give you some inspirational chord patterns you can play around with on the piano. Let's get on to the lesson breakdown. So specifically during this lesson, I'm going to be introducing you to a chord pattern, kind of like talking you through it. We're going to play the pattern together, and then for each pattern, I'm going to show you a little improv exercise you can do to make things more interesting, but also start to put these patterns into practice. We're going to do 3 patterns total. The first 2 are easy. The last one's more of a challenge, but it's more inspirational. And then at the end, you definitely want to stick around because I have a surprise for you. It is totally worth it. So make sure to stick around for the whole lesson. So let's get on to the first pattern. Let me walk you through this first progression. I'm just going to show you with the left hand first. We're actually going to be playing these both with both hands, but just one hand just to make it simple. So we're going to be playing a C major chord first, maybe the notes C, E, and G. And then we're going to go down to the 7th chord here, A7. You can follow along with the light up keys there if you want. And then we got D7, D, F sharp, A, and C. And then our last chord is just very simply a G major chord. So let's play these together. We're going to play the C together. You can use both hands if you want. We're just copying the same thing. C major, A major, D, D7, and then we've got G here to finish it out. All right, practice that a few times. You can rewatch parts of this lesson as many times as you need, so I'm not going to go over each pattern a bunch of times, just once or twice. So now, as promised, I'm going to show you a improv exercise. So are you paying attention? This is really where we put the rubber to the road here. So here's how the first one exercise is going to work. We're going to play 4 notes between each hand, the same notes. And we're basically going to be arpeggiating each chord. This is like the simplest improv you could possibly do. So instead of playing a chord all together, we're playing it one note at a time. I want to specifically point out for this C major, the first chord, C major, and the last chord, G major. We're going to be doing this though. We're going to be hitting C, E, G, and then we're going to be hitting a C an octave above where we started. Same thing with the left hand. Pretty easy. So those are our 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to go to our A7 chord. A7 already has 4 notes, so no need to double that last note. D7, the same thing, has 4 notes. And then G major, like we said, because it only has 3 notes, we're going to be copying that last note. So now if you play it with a little bit of speed to it, like I said, it's very simple, but this is where you should start when you're improvising. So C, A, D, G. I'm going to do it without talking one time. So there you go. And then the next exercise I give you will kind of build on that. So if you felt that was too easy, don't worry. We're going to keep going here. So now onto the second pattern. The pattern, we're just going to play this with one hand for now, is E major. So E, G sharp, B. B major. You got B, D sharp, F sharp. You got C sharp minor. This one's going to get a lot of people. Oops, it got me. C sharp, E, G sharp, and then last one, A major, A, C sharp, E. Pretty simple. So now we're going to play it together. Same thing between both hands, and I won't talk at all, I promise. And you can repeat that as many times as you need because we're in a video and you can rewind. So now, as I promised, it's time for the exercise. So this one's a little bit more interesting. So, let's take a look together. So we're going to do it in 2 steps. The first step with your left hand is you're just going to play four of each chord to make like a whole measure. So you're going to start on E, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go to B, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you may need to pause and go through that a few times, because now we're going to add to it. So here's how this is going to work. So each chord has what we call a root. It's the name of the chord. And in this case, for this lesson, it's all the way on the bottom. And then the next note we're going to hit is the fifth. It's where your pinky generally should be. 5 notes up from your root. So here's how it's going to work. So for the first 3 beats, we're going to hold the root. And then for the last beat, we're going to hit the fifth and then move on to the next chord. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let's play it together. It'll actually make it a little easier that I'm playing out the beats in our left hand. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just kind of building what we did on the last one, except we kind of changed. Where are we at? Here we are. Except we changed it from arpeggios to block chords, just kind of adding a little bit more with the right hand. The next exercise will even build on that a little bit more, but let me show you the exercises that we're going to be doing. And keep in mind that things are going to get a little tougher from here, but if you spend your time pausing the video, going through like these a couple of times, I think you'll even be able to get this one. It's not that much harder. So let me show you.
It's a hard knock life.
Okay, I lied. I'm sorry. I think you'll forgive me, because now it's time for the power tip. It's a tip that you can use in conjunction with what we learned already to make things a little bit more interesting. And let me show you. This one is all about voice leading. Now, this is extra. Like if you're just trying to get the chords down, don't worry about this at all. Just kind of like get the idea of what I'm trying to say and then see if you can apply it later. But here's your power tip. When moving between each chord, so like a lot of times when we've been playing the chords, we've been jumping around the piano a lot. Right? You got to like physically move your hand. It sounds okay. It's a little bit disjointed, but it could flow a whole lot nicer, and here's how you do it. So say we have 2 chords. We're going to do a C major chord, and we're going to do an F major chord. Now what I want you to do is keep in mind, like write it down if you want, write down the 3 notes that make up a C major chord, C, E, G. Then write down the notes that make up an F major chord, F, A, C. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move between these 2 chords, but not like we've been doing. We're going to do it a little bit different. So here we go. We're going to start with our first chord. Now remember, I told you to write down the 3 notes that made up that F major chord, F, A, and C. And the first rule, this is based on rules. I know we don't like rules, but here's the first one. The first rule is to retain any common tones between the chords. So any notes that they have in common, you want to keep where they are on the piano. So when I'm playing the C major chord and I'm going to play the F major chord, what note do those 2 chords have in common? The note can appear in different places on the piano. It just has to be the same letter note. And hopefully you said C, right? Because C major had C, E, G. F major had F, A, C. So when you play C major, when I go to the F major chord, I have to make sure that C is anchored right where it is. That's what we call retaining the common tone. And then what you want to do is you want to move the next notes to the closest notes of the chord you're going to. So let me explain. So we got our C anchored, right? And let's figure out maybe what to do with this E. So what note in the F major chord is E closest to? Like with where our fingers are at. It's F, right? So I can just move that E to F, and the G was our other note, and I can move that up to A. So again, we're going from here to here. I've actually changed chords completely, but it doesn't look like it because I've only moved a slight amount. See how it basically saved me from going here all the way up there? It also, once you do voice leading and add it to your progressions, it will have a very much nicer flow than playing them all over the place. See how that sounded? It sounded good, but it just didn't have like a flow to it. It didn't have voice leading. And the voices are actually the notes of the chord. So the top note is one voice, the middle note's another, bottom note's another. And again, the rules are what? Rule number 1 is to retain common tones and then move the other notes by the smallest amount of movement possible. Just try, if you're a beginner, just practice those 2 chords we talked about, C major and then go into that F major, and see if you can truly understand what I was talking about. Don't try to like apply it to these progressions right away unless you've taken some theory already. So that was your power tip. Take it with you or don't. It's not the most important part of the lesson, but it is something that will come and play later on, and it will make your progression sound better if you can master it. But that aside, let's get on to the next chord progression.
It was really beautiful. I just started to blossom. Yeah.
Okay, so as I promised, I was going to call it the last progression, but it's actually not. I want to give you a little secret. So you want to keep paying attention. So we have our new progression here. And we're just going to play it with the right hand first, and then we'll play it hands together. So we're going to do a C major. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to an E flat major, which kind of gives it some bite, doesn't it? Then we're going to go to an F minor chord, and then back to C. So I'm going to play it together, kind of walking you through again. C major, and then we're going to go to E flat major. Then we're going to go to F minor. So it's the same as F major, just flatting that note in the middle there. Back to C. All right, and then I'm going to play it with a little bit more speed to it. Get you to hear maybe more of the context of what it's going to sound like. So this one with that, we call that a flat 3 chord. That gives it a little bit more bite. And using the mix of major and minor chords kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. So now let's play a progression or a practice exercise to go along with this. Here we go. Okay, now this exercise is a little bit tricky because it's technically going to be in 6/8, and how we're going to do this is that you're going to be playing arpeggios with your right hand. Remember, that's when you're playing chords, notes separate, but I'm going to be hitting a chord after I play that arpeggio. And how this is going to work is that we're going to be counting 6 beats. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to hold this for 4, 5, 6. So just try that a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very good. And then what you do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You move to the next progression, or next chord, sorry. 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pause the video, play it through a few times if you need. This may be a lesson you even want to watch more than once. All right, so that was the 3rd progression that I said was the harder one, but the more inspirational one. But guess what? I told you that if you stuck around to the end, it would be totally worth it. And your piano teacher, Tim, always comes through, at least 99.9% of the time. And I'm going to come through this time, so don't worry. All right, I have a question for you before we begin, or before we continue on to the final segment, which I have more progressions for you. That's the present. And the question is, would you smooch a ghost? Let me know in the comments. And then the second question, which is a follow-up question for extra credit points, is what game did I steal that question from? And then for extra credit points, what character in the game said that line? Anyway, that's just kind of like a fun little thing. Answer it or don't.
Any other takers?
Let's get on to the final 2 progressions. That's my surprise for you here at the end of the lesson. Now, this is going to work a little bit different. These ones are a little bit tougher. However, I don't have an exercise for each one, so I'm just going to run through both of them. This is like an extra thing. You can apply it to the exercises we've already done. Just a little more thank you for sticking around to the end. I told you it would be worth it. But you don't know that yet. Let's take a look at our final progressions. Okay, we're sticking around C for these last progressions. I'm going to play it with one hand, we're going to play it with both hands, and then we're going to get on to the next progression. But here we go. C major. You should know that one by now. And then we're going to go to A flat major. Actually, I would move down maybe. So A flat major is right here. A flat, C, E flat. And then we are going to do an F major chord. We've played one of those before. You can move up for that. And then back to C. It's very similar to the progression we just played. Remember the other one, we had like a flat 3, which was that E flat. This time, we're moving down to A flat. Now let's play it hands together. I'm going to be holding these each for 4 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, you can use the exercises we've done before. Or something like that. Just have some fun with it. All right, guess what? There's another one. All right, here's the last progression. This one's actually extra tricky, but you'll get the hang of it. I promise, probably. Anyway, so you're going to play a C major chord. We're used to that. Then we're going to go to an A flat major chord. However, we're going to add one note to it. We're going to add a G at the top. We call that A flat major 7th. So that's our second chord. Then we're going to go to an F minor chord. We've seen that before. And then back to a 1 chord. So we're going to play it hands together. I'm going to play them each for 4 beats each. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. See how that one definitely had like a lot of extra flavor to it. Like that one like really, it almost sounds wrong until you kind of complete the progression. Now, you can use the voice leading rule. Remember, that was our power tip of today. You can use the voice leading rule with all these other progressions. I decided not to. I found that it would be easier for beginners to just play them all in root position. And then your extra assignment is to see if you can apply that voice leading to some of the other progressions. Remember, it's not the most important thing of the lesson, but it is something in the future you're going to have to know about. And if you need to brush up on your majors, your minors, your diminished, augmented, some of the 7th chords, you need to check out this 1-hour learning session we did live. It's really, really good. A lot of students like it. You're going to want to check that out. Brush up on all your chords. It really comes in handy when playing these progressions. I, of course, have other lessons all around the channel. A huge collection all about learning piano. So it's been your piano teacher, Tim, here. Make sure you watch the next video, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Have a great day.
And wow, you know that thing with the Jefferson airplane when you had that light show and the whole TV was going like this? Wow, that was really far out, you know.